Douglas V. Gibbs here, Constitution Study TV, or politicalpistachio.com, douglasvgibbs.com. Here was a question from Nathan in Woodcrest. And Nathan in Woodcrest, California said, well, I keep hearing you say we are a republic, we're not a democracy. Couldn't we call ourselves a representative democracy? Isn't that the same thing as republic? No. Let's talk about it. All right, number one, the word democracy is not mentioned once in the United States Constitution or the Declaration of Independence. We're not a democracy, never intended to be a democracy. John Adams said that there's never been a democracy that didn't commit suicide. James Madison said democracies are short in their lives and violent in their deaths. And Thomas Jefferson called democracies the tyranny of the majority, where 51% can vote away the rights of the other 49%. The Greek states, if you go way back in history, that they used pure democracy. And without law, there could be no rule. Without law, there could be no peace. Is what Solon said. And basically what he was saying was that there needs to be law. However, there also needs to be checks and balances, and that includes against the people. They cannot have all the power because, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and that includes even with the vote of the people. So when people say, oh, what about the will of the people? Will of the people is fine as long as the will of the people follows the rule of law. In a pure democracy, it doesn't. So in those old Greek states, you saw a rise and fall and a rise and fall. In other words, society collapsed over and over and over, because what would happen is once the voters could be convinced that it is in their power to vote themselves treasures or gifts from the treasury, they would do so. And first of all, they would bankrupt the system. Second of all, politicians would realize the way to get votes is to promise gifts from the treasury, and ultimately it would wind up collapsing the system. So democracy is not a good thing. We're not supposed to be a democracy. And this idea that a republic and a democracy is the same thing is nothing new. James Madison 5 times in the Federalist Papers explained the difference between a democracy and a republic. He did so because there were those trying to convince everybody there was no difference between the two. And he was trying to explain that there was. In a republic, number one, you have two constituencies. In a republic, you have the constituency of we the people. Then you have a second constituency that checks. In our case, it was the states. And the states had their voice in the U.S. Senate, which got changed by the 17th Amendment. In a republic, you have all these checks and balances that, in that case, that was a bicameral Congress in which the Congress itself checked itself because the two houses were different from each other. That's a part of being a republic. A republic also does what it can to protect the voice of the minority. It's part of the reason why our U.S. Senate has 2 senators per state, so that even North Dakota has as loud as a voice as New York, or at least in the Senate. It protects that state from being dictated to and controlled by a more populated area. Prior to the Warren Court, changing this with Reynolds v. Sims, the states used to have their state senates were the county lines, and the county leadership appointed the senators. And so you would have 1 state senator per county, and that would, once again, protect, like the Senate, protect the voice of the minority counties. Now, in California, for example, you have 1 state Senate district which consists of 5 counties, while the Los Angeles County itself has 13 Senate districts. So in other words, Los Angeles County has a voice that is 13 times stronger than 5 counties put together. How is that protecting the voice of the minority? All of these factors make us a republic. Now, in Article 4, Section 4, it indicates that the United States shall guarantee to each state a Republican form of government. In other words, each state must be guaranteed that it's a republic. It can't be a democracy. It can't be a theocracy. It can't be dictatorship or socialist state or whatever. It is the responsibility of the federal government to make sure each state remains a republic. Yet here we are, we're hearing discussions about eliminating the Electoral College, something else that protects our republic, and protects us from the excesses of democracy. We have there are those out there complaining about the U.S. Senate having, where North Dakota has a lot of voices in New York. We've had the 17th Amendment eliminate the voice of states in the U.S. Senate. We've got states pushing for the national popular vote, going back to the Electoral College, all of this stuff. This is trying to move us towards democracy. That's what the Democratic Party is all about. Let's talk about them for just a second. The father of the Democratic Party is Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson believed in pure democracy. The whole point of everything the Democrats do is pushing for pure democracy. The problem with pure democracy is not a stable form of government. It is a transitional form of government that can be used to transition from a republic to an oligarchy. In other words, the many ruled over by the few, the powerful few. Karl Marx, it is alleged, said that democracy is the road to socialism. Whether or not he said that, I don't. That's never been proven, but I tell you what, it's an accurate statement. Point is, we're not supposed to be a democracy. We're not a representative democracy. We are a republic. We use representation, and you got to even understand this. In the beginning, when it came to the federal government, the only vote the people had was for the House. The senators were appointed by the state legislatures. The president was elected by electors that were appointed by the state legislatures and then influenced and lobbied by we the people. At the state level, the people voted for governor and their assembly or state house representatives, depending on how your state does it, but the state senate was appointed by the county leadership. This was to create checks and balances so that there wasn't a pure aristocracy where the powerful were choosing their own leaders, but at the same time wasn't a pure democracy where the people were choosing all the leaders. It was a mixture, a mixed constitution, a mixed system. So that should hopefully answer your question, Nathan. We are not a representative democracy. We're not a liberal democracy, as we're hearing lately on the TV with the leftist media. We are a republic. Remember that when you pledge allegiance to the flag, you don't pledge allegiance to the democracy for which the flag stands, but to the republic for which it stands. When Elizabeth Powell approached Benjamin Franklin and said, "What have you given us, doctor?" And he said, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." We are a republic. We're supposed to be a republic. Now, here's the question. Do you know how to keep the republic? That's why you need to be involved. All right, thanks for listening. Once again, politicalpistachio.com, douglasvgibbs.com. I am Douglas V. Gibbs. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already to this YouTube page. Share it with as many people as you can. Let's get constitutional teaching spread across the country. Let's increase constitutional literacy in this country. And also, when you go to politicalpistachio.com, douglasvgibbs.com, there is a donate button there. Could always use your help. Thanks for listening.